If your husband served during wartime and you're a widow over 65, there may be a monthly check from the VA with your own name on it, and nobody whose job it is to hold that money will ever call to tell you to come get it. Before I show you who this is for, if you've got a parent, a mother, an aunt who lost a veteran husband, do me one favor and subscribe and tap that bell. This channel exists to hand surviving spouses and their families the benefits nobody ever mails them a form for. That's it. Now, let me show you what I mean. Picture Eleanor. She's 74, a widow in Ohio. Her husband Frank served in Vietnam, came home, worked 40 years at the same job, and passed 3 years ago. Eleanor's a careful woman. She lives on Frank's Social Security survivor benefit, and she watches every single dollar. She knows what the electric bill is before it comes. She keeps the thermostat low in February. And sitting on her kitchen table, without her knowing it, is a possibility she's never heard a word about. There may be a second monthly check, not Frank's, hers. A check from the Department of Veterans Affairs, with Eleanor's own name printed on it. 3 years she's been going without it. 3 years of stretching one check when there might have been two. So why doesn't she know? Because here's how this whole thing actually works. Nobody whose job it is to hold that money is ever going to pick up the phone and call Eleanor. There is no clerk at the VA whose morning task is to find widows and tell them what they're owed. The money just sits there, quietly, waiting for someone to ask. And most people never ask, because most people never hear about it. That's what I want to fix in the next few minutes. There are 3 pieces to this, and I'm going to walk you up them like 3 steps. The first step is the one that stops most people cold who actually qualifies. The second step is how the VA figures out the size of your check, and it surprises people, because the math works in favor of folks who assume they earn too much. And the third step, the one I'm saving for last, is the highest value piece of all. It's called aid in attendance, and for a surviving spouse, it can push that monthly check north of $1,400, over $16,000 a year. That's the one I told you to stay for. Don't leave before we get there. Now, before you talk yourself out of this, and I know some of you already are, let me hit the 2 thoughts running through your head. Some of you are thinking, this is only for people who are flat broke, and that's not me. And some of you are thinking the opposite. I'm doing okay, I've got a little put away, so this can't be for me either. Both of those are how good, proud people leave real money on the table. On every single piece of this, I'm going to tell you exactly who it helps most. So do not count yourself out at your own kitchen table before you've heard the numbers. Let me tell you who I am, so you know why you should give me the next few minutes. My name is Walter Hayes. For more than 15 years, I've read the fine print of these government programs for ordinary families. The income limits, the forms, the deadlines, nobody announces. I don't sell anything. I don't work for the government. I'm not here to sign you up for a thing. I just read the rules so you don't have to. That's the whole job. And because I don't sell anything, I'm going to do something the clickbait won't. I'm going to right-size this before anybody gets excited or gets scared. So here's the honest truth. There is no giant secret check that every widow of a veteran automatically gets. If somebody told you there's a hidden pile of money waiting for all of you, that's not true, and I won't sit here and tell you it is. Here's what is true. It's called the VA Survivor's Pension. Some people call it the death pension, and it's a real needs-based monthly benefit for low-income surviving spouses of wartime veterans. Real program, real money, real form. The intention behind it is good. Congress meant for widows like Eleanor to have it. The system just isn't built to walk over to your house and tell you it exists. That gap between the benefit being real and the benefit actually landing in your mailbox, that's the whole story. Being entitled and actually getting paid are 2 completely different things. If you're a widow watching this and your husband wore the uniform, this next part is about your check. Stay with me. Because here's where it gets practical. Every one of you is sitting there wondering the same thing right now. My Frank served, but did his service count? My husband was only in a couple of years. Does that even matter? Did he have to be in combat? Did he need a medal? That's the question that stops most widows before they ever start. And it's the right question to ask first, because if the service doesn't qualify, none of the rest matters. So let's answer it plainly. No jargon, no runaround. The VA doesn't ask whether your husband was a hero. It doesn't ask about medals or battles or how long he stayed in. It draws one specific line, a line with 3 parts to it, and either his service crosses that line or it doesn't. And here's the frustrating part, the part that makes me quietly angry on your behalf. That line is actually a lot more forgiving than people think. Widows who would clearly qualify hear the word wartime and picture something dramatic, something their quiet husband who came home and worked 40 years never talked about, and they decide it's not for them. They disqualify themselves over a definition they never actually looked up. So, the very first question is the one that stops most widows cold. Did your husband's service even count? The VA has an exact line: 90 days of active duty, at least 1 day during a recognized wartime period, discharged under conditions other than dishonorable. And here's the part that scares off people who'd actually qualify. Did his service count? Here's the exact line the VA draws. Your late husband had to serve at least 90 days of active duty, with at least 1 day during a recognized wartime period, and be discharged under conditions other than dishonorable. That's it. Not a hero's record, not a Purple Heart. 90 days, 1 wartime day, and a discharge that isn't dishonorable. If that describes Frank, and it describes millions of men who served in Vietnam, in Korea, in World War II, then the door isn't closed. It's open. And now, here's the part that scares off the very widows who'd actually qualify. Because the next thing the VA looks at is money. And this is where most people count themselves out at their own kitchen table. You don't have to be poor to qualify. Let me say that again, because it's the single biggest reason a check with your own name on it goes unclaimed. 2 things have to fall under the VA limit: your countable income and your net worth. For 2024, the net worth limit is $155,356. That's the same figure Medicaid uses. And when people hear a number like that, they do the math in their head, they add up the house, and they think, well, that's me out. No. Stop. Here's what almost nobody tells you. Your home does not count, your car does not count, the roof over your head and the car sitting in your driveway are not part of that net worth number. So the paid-off house you've lived in for 30 years, the sedan you drive to church on Sunday, none of it pushes you over the line. You own your home free and clear? Good. It does not count. Read that again. Think about what that does to the math. A widow looks at her little house, maybe worth $200,000, and she assumes she's far too rich for a needs-based benefit. She never even asks. But the VA isn't looking at that house. It's looking at what's in the bank and what's coming in every month. And for a modest homeowner on a fixed income, that number is usually a lot smaller than she fears. So who does this first piece help most? Exactly the person who assumes she's shut out. The widow who owns her home. The one who says, I've got a house, so I must have too much. You don't. And it helps the renter too, the one living on a single survivor check in an apartment, who assumed this was only for the truly destitute. Both of them are wrong about themselves. Both of them may qualify. Don't count yourself out before the VA even gets a look.